Hello, hello. We are on video 4 here in this series of videos like experimenting and sort of playing around with Craypaw's Oil Pastels by Sakura of America. I am always happy to help out Donna Downey Studios and the artist gang, and I really love being a guest here, so thanks so much for stopping by. In the last video, video number 3, I did a direct application of the oil pastels to the tag, and then I did gesso over them. So I decided this time that I would do gesso to the tag and then play with the oil pastels, but leave them, unlike the resist technique where I wiped the oil pastels away. So there's tag, and then I'm doing a couple layers of Liquitex gesso just to cover it, get some nice even coverage, and mostly block out the kind of stuff, the text and things that are happening on the tag underneath. Really quickly just covering it and drying between the layers, making sure that everything is dry, so that when I add the oil pastel, which is oil-based versus some of these water-based products, I want to see what happens when I layer them up, but I don't want them to be wet. Like, I don't want to put oil pastel into a wet gesso. So that's where I'm at. That's my thinking process. That's my thought process for this one. I did get out this pen, and it got really irritating. I need to clean it. It was dry, and it's not dead. It's just dry, and I need to clean the nib on it. But it wasn't working. So then instead I got out my Stabilo, which actually ends up being very cool because Stabilo gets kind of grungy, and I was going to play with the oil pastels and on top of the gesso with a blender tool in my finger anyways. So I drew some sort of like just shapes, some dangling circles, and I wasn't necessarily going for anything specific. I was just kind of having fun and seeing where this took me. So I drew some dangling circles, and then I checked out my reds and oranges, kind of beautiful, really bright and bold colors happening. And I decided to go with the one that was very, very red. It's super red. And I am now mimicking the shapes that I had already put down with the Stabilo. So at first I'm just doing some applying an application of the Craypaw oil pastel directly to my gessoed surface. And then I thought I should get out my blender tool, because the blender tool lets me work in a much smaller area and with finer detail. So at first I kind of spread the oil pastel around in each of the circles, and then I went back and I ran the Stabilo, or I keep saying Stabilo, but I ran the blender tool through the oil pastel and then circled around it so that there was oil pastel transfer on the blender stump, and then it transferred to the outside of the circle where the gesso was that there hadn't been pastel before. So it's kind of cool. So they got kind of sketchy. It gave me an opportunity to use these oil pastels in a much finer detail, because they are oil pastels and they're thick and they're creamy, and you don't usually get to work in super fine detail with them. So that was kind of cool. And I got out a pen. So this is a I hate that I forgot the name. I'm so sorry. I will check that out. It's I picked this pen up just hanging on the shelf at Walmart, or I think I picked up a bunch of them, like a pack of 12 on Amazon. So I'll give you the name of these, but they're cool because they do tend to work on top of other paints and things like that, and it's nice. So a little bit of pen work with my oil pastel. And then I thought that after sort of running that blender stump through the oil pastel and then creating those sketchier circles, it wasn't quite, my oil pastel circles, the red wasn't quite as vibrant. So I just went back in and I layered some more of that up. And the really beautiful thing about oil pastels is that they do tend to layer really beautifully. And so I was able to keep that vibrancy of the color just by applying a little bit more. Then I got doodly with the Stabilo, just doing a little bit of mark making. And then I have these, I have a bunch of the Donna Downey stamps. I adore her words and sayings. They're so super inspirational and very empowering. And this one, my favorite one by Donna, has always been Live Inspired. And she did like a whole series of different things like sweatshirts and hats and mugs and things like that. And this one was always my favorite. So I just stamped it in archival ink by Ranger. And then I second generation stamped. So with whatever ink was left on the stamp, then I just kind of stamped all over the page. And I thought that this would be cooler than it turned out. And it's totally cool because not everything can be successful. I put some oil pastel down on my under paper, and then I added a little bit of linseed oil, and I thought I would sort of create like an oil paint almost. But it's not very awesome. And so I don't know. You can try it. Maybe you'll have better luck than me. Maybe I needed more oil pastel. Maybe I can't imagine that I needed more oil, but it wasn't that great. Oh well. That's why I'm filming, so you can see what does and doesn't work for me. I'm going to set some of that stuff to the side. And then I figured, since I had already used the blending tool, the blending stump with the oil pastel, that I would just add a little bit of color around the tag with my finger. And then it gets really cool because before, when I was, I put the oil pastel directly on the paper in video 3, it did blend really well, but not this well. This is really insane. Like, I'm able to take this color after I rub it with my fingers. I'm able to take this color really far into the tag, like way further than I ever thought I would be able to, and it's really cool. And I know that that's because there's a layer of gesso, because the gesso, even though it's a ground to work on, it's not as porous as paper is. So I had a lot, like a ton of availability as far as spreading the color goes. And it was cool too because that Stabilo was underneath there. So where the Stabilo was, and I ran the red over it, then it got kind of gray grungy, and it's really cool. So definitely check that out in the up close shots because it's very cool. And then I almost can't do anything without finishing it off by scraping a tiny, like sometimes a lot, but in this case, a tiny bit of gesso, and it just helps me finish off this piece. So that is number 4 in this video series. Number 5 is coming up next. Please be sure to check out what the other, Donna invited quite a few amazing artists to participate in this like little kind of product play series. So definitely check them out, see what everyone's doing. And then I have one more video in this series, and I did another series using some art rollers. So check out what everyone's up to. Keep your eye out on the Donna Downey Studios blog and the Artist Gang blog. Lots of really great stuff happening. If you're liking my videos, please feel free to find me, DeeDee Catron. I have a website. You can find me on Facebook and Instagram, and also my YouTube channel has lots of videos on it. So I'll see you around. Thank you so much.